After years of trying to grow our family, my husband Brian, 40 meters, and I, 39F, recently adopted a 10-year-old girl named Satie. She is truly wonderful, full of curiosity, kindness, and a calm strength that impresses me. The entire process was drawn out and emotional, but the moment we met her, I realized that Sil had cheated, been exposed at my children's adoption party, blamed me for her divorce, demanded that I pay her lawyer fees, abandoned her daughter, and asked her ex for vacation money. We threw a small party with only close family and friends to formally welcome her because we knew she was the piece we had been missing. We were eager to give her a loving home, and we were so grateful to have her in our lives. Since this was such a significant event for our family, we wanted to make the day truly special for Satie. So we went all out with decorations, balloons, and posters, and even ordered a cake with her name on it. We invited all of our family members, including my sister-in-law Betty, 35F, her daughter Violet, 7F, and her husband Zane, 35Mem, who is also my cousin, to make sure she felt honored, accepted, and loved. Betty is known for spoiling Violet to the extent that she is referred to as the family princess. She has always been very attached to Violet, giving her lots of attention and making sure she is the center of attention at family gatherings. She loves to boast about Violet's. We've all learned to give Violet a little extra love to keep Betty happy because she frequently suggests that Violet should be the center of attention at our gatherings and gets visibly upset if Violet isn't. However, when I told her about our adoption and the welcome party for Satie, her reaction was surprisingly annoying. Rather than congratulating us, she muttered something like, "So Violet won't be the only princess in the family now," and swiftly shifted the subject. It was an odd remark, but I assumed it was simply jealousy that would pass. However, throughout the following few weeks, Betty began making small remarks that unnerved me. She would say things like, "It's going to be tough for Violet to share the spotlight," or "Not every kid knows how to be around a real princess." As if she were implying that she didn't quite measure up to Violet, I decided to overlook it, assuming Betty would need some time to adjust to the fact that she was no longer the only grandchild. I even considered throwing a more modest celebration, but ultimately I decided that making Satie feel special and included was more important. When the big day finally came, everything went perfectly. The decorations looked wonderful, and our house was crowded with family and friends eager to meet S. It felt like a new beginning for Brian and me when Betty, Zane, and Violet arrived. Noticed Betty's awkwardness right away. She forced a smile, avoided eye contact, and looked around at the decorations as if disappointed. In contrast, Zane was ecstatic to meet his niece, and despite Betty's odd behavior, I tried to maintain a positive attitude and concentrate on making sure Satie was. As the celebration progressed, it became more difficult to ignore Betty's behavior, because she would continually bring up Violet whenever someone complimented her. For instance, if someone complimented Stee on her manners, Betty would interrupt to remind everyone of how courteous Violet had always been. And if someone was impressed by her dress, she would loudly mention how Violet had been dressing like a little princess since she was a baby. When I saw her huddled with a few people in a corner, talking loudly enough for me to hear snippets of their conversation, she was saying things like, "Some people just do not know how to raise a true princess," and that it takes a special kind of parent to nurture a child. It was clear that she was referring to us, and it hurt to think that Betty would go to such lengths to undermine our reputation. Attempts to make Satie feel loved and included, but just as I was about to confront her, something unexpected happened. Zane, who had been fairly quiet all night, got up and asked for everyone's attention. I was taken aback by Zane. I had assumed he would make a toast or say something kind about STI, but instead he dropped a bombshell that left everyone stunned. In a cool but firm voice, Zane shared some devastating news that he had learned Betty had revealed that Violet is not his biological daughter after cheating on him years ago with one of his friends. He said that he had only recently come to terms with this and had been struggling with it for some time, but after witnessing Betty's behavior at the party, he felt he could not remain silent any longer and declared that he would be filing for divorce and that he would separate, but that he would still be there for Violet if she wanted him to. The room went completely quiet. Betty's face turned pale, and she was left completely stunned. She just stood there, frozen, as if she couldn't believe what had happened. After a moment, she turned and ran out of the room, her face a mixture of horror and shock. Zay soon followed, leaving everyone stunned. The rest of the party fell silent, but we were able to return the attention to Satie and enjoy the evening. She had a great time, and it felt like our little family was finally coming together in a way I had always hoped for. Since that night, Betty has not reached out, and the family has split over what went down. Some people think Zane did the right thing by standing up for himself and calling out Betty, especially after her behavior at the party. I was relieved to see her smile blissfully, unaware of the family drama that had just unfolded, kept it more private, Some family members have even implied that given Betty's perception of Violet as the family princess, I might not have planned such a large welcome party. They imply that my actions may have caused Betty to lose it in the ensuing family drama. This whole situation has left me feeling conflicted. On the one hand, I planned the party to honor her and show her love, but on the other hand, I can't help but wonder if I should have witnessed Betty's. I want to thank AITA for throwing a welcome party for my daughter, knowing that it might upset my sister-in-law. Should I have been more considerate of Betty's feelings about Violet being the family princess? I am torn between not wanting to have to tone down a celebration for Satie and hating that our party turned into a major family conflict. It's been a few weeks since I posted the Fallout Beyond My Control Update 1, and I was overwhelmed by the amount of people telling me that I wasn't the issue. Nevertheless, I wanted to give you all a brief update. To start, STI is really fitting in and doing well with us. She is settling into her new home and displaying more of her lively personality every day. She has also made a few friends at school, some after-school activities, and is beginning to explore hobbies which she loves. It is so wonderful to watch her embrace her interests and feel secure in our family. Brian and I are thankful every day that she has brought so much joy and light into our lives, and it truly reminds us why we went through that lengthy adoption journey. Now, regarding Betty's situation, this part is a little more difficult because we had not heard from her for a while after the party, and then she suddenly texted Brian. Her message wasn't an apology or a friendly hello, but rather a demand that we pay for her legal fees. Betty claimed that our party was the reason behind her divorce, claiming that we should pay for her legal fees because our celebration triggered Zay's reaction. She also claimed that her marriage might still be intact if we hadn't flaunted our celebration. Went so far as to accuse us of causing her distress and placing her in a situation where Zane ultimately revealed her secret. Brian and I were completely taken aback by what we read. We never imagined that hosting a welcome party for our daughter would cause Betty's marriage to fall apart, and it was even more bizarre that she would place the blame on us. Betty behaved as she pleased at the party, just as Zane did. And let's not forget that Betty was the one who decided to cheat on Jonathan. Had nothing to do with her holding that big secret for so long. The truth would eventually surface. What's more bizarre is that some family members are supporting Betty, saying things like, "We should have expected this to upset her," and understandably, she feels hurt. It seems like they're trying to make us feel bad for celebrating the arrival of Satie. We don't think we should have to hide our joy for her. A part of me wants to explain why we are not paying and set some firm boundaries, because Betty's marital problems are not our fault, and it is not right for her to do so. However, Brian and I have made it clear that we will not be paying her lawyer fees or anything else, and we are sticking to our guns on that. STI deserves all the celebration, and we will not apologize for that. Update 2. Hey everyone, I'm back with another update on what's been going on since my last post. Things have accelerated, and while she is doing great and fitting in at home, I've noticed that she has been a little quieter lately, which has me worried. Part of me blames us, but another part of me believes it might be better to just ignore her and focus on our family, letting Betty handle her mess. He has been trying to come to terms with everything that has happened, but he wanted us to know that he cares about us and has our back, which meant a lot, especially given all the chaos Betty has caused. However, Betty went too far by publicly accusing Zane of being a bad father on social media, claiming that he was leaving Violet during this difficult time. It was shocking and only served to heighten the family drama, and many people stood up for Zane, it's nice to see. It demonstrates how low Betty has fallen, feeling the need to support both Zane and Stevie. Brian and I decided to intervene, and after speaking with Zane, we decided that he should do something to correct the record regarding Violet and Betty. He deserves to defend his daughter from the fallout of Betty's actions amid all this chaos, and it pains me to see her retreating. She is beginning to believe that it is her fault. As we work through this messy situation, Brian and I are doing our best to reassure her that none of this is her fault, and that our love for her has not changed. I sincerely hope Betty will realize the consequences of her actions, but for now, our main focus is on Steve's well-being and making sure she doesn't have any problems. If she hadn't entered our lives, Betty and Zane wouldn't be experiencing these issues. Feel safe and loved in our home update 3. Hey everyone, it's been about 4 months since my last update, and it seems like Betty is still up to her drama because things are only getting worse every day. You may recall how she accused Zane of being a bad father, and she claimed that he was abandoning Violet during this difficult time. That was completely ridiculous, especially since she was the one who dropped Violet off at his house, leaving her behind. Yes, Betty simply left. After leaving Violet at Zay's door and disappearing, Betty disappeared for a few days. Everyone was naturally concerned about what she might do next, and Zane was in a state of panic and anxiety, trying to find out where she had gone. He was worried about her mental health and what it meant for Violet, who was still adjusting to everything that had changed when suddenly Betty appeared, sent a shocking text that left us all stunned. She claimed to be on vacation with the man she had an affair with and that she was broke. She asked Zan for money to help pay for her trip, saying that she was having a great time but needed some financial support. Her audacity was astounding, and Zan was furious when he read the message because he could not understand how she thought it was okay. When Zane brought up her message, it was clear that she was in denial. She tried to act like the victim, saying things like, "We do not understand how tough this is for her." But it was ridiculous that she had made her decisions, and now she was twisting the story to paint herself as the martyr. Zane did not hold back, telling her that she was being selfish. To abandon their child and then ask for money for a vacation just demonstrated how completely irresponsible and uncaring she was towards her family. He also stated that he was speaking with a lawyer regarding custody and child support, which was a significant step for him. The more they talked about it, the more it became evident that he needed to set boundaries to guarantee Violet had a stable environment going forward. Zane clarified that he would not allow Betty's erratic behavior to interfere with his plans. He wanted to give Betty a chance at being a good parent, but her actions continued to show that she was uninterested and more concerned with her image and desires than with Violet's needs. On the other hand, Zane loved Violet and would do anything for her, but he felt pressured by the family to consider Betty's feelings because he knew he couldn't jeopardize Violet's well-being just to keep things amicable. It felt like we were all preparing for the next big shock as a result of everything that was going on. One day, during a family meeting, Zane had the opportunity to talk about what he was going through. He explained how difficult it was to accept everything and how he was trying to be the father Violet needed. This conversation gave the family some clarity and made them realize how serious the situation was. Zane ultimately decided to proceed with the custody process after realizing it was the best way to give Violet a stable home away from the chaos that Betty was bringing into their lives. It was a difficult decision for him, but he knew it had to be done as we attempted to sort out this messy family drama, and it became evident that Betty was solely responsible for keeping everyone on their toes, accountable for her actions, as she was the one who caused this mess and made the decisions that brought us to this point. Although we all agreed that she would eventually own up to her mistakes and seek assistance, we were unable to allow her to dictate how our family proceeded. Since the start of all the family drama, things have been much quieter. She initially seemed thrilled about her new life, but she feels that the conflict with Betty and the chaos around Zane has negatively affected her, have caused the problems between Zane and Betty. It pains me to see her like this, and we have tried our best to reassure her that nothing is her fault and that our feelings for her have not changed. We want her to feel safe and secure despite the chaos going on around us. Hopefully, Betty will realize her mistake and stop causing the entire family to go through her drama.
Hey everyone, I haven't posted in a long time, but I'm back with another update. And this time, wow, things have taken some serious turns. It's been a roller coaster, but I'm excited to report that after everything he had to go through with Betty, Zane has officially won custody of Violet.
This feels like a giant victory for him and, more importantly, for Violet. I won't go into the specifics of the legal stuff because, to be honest, I don't understand it all, but the fact that Zane has custody of Violet, let's get started on what's happening with Betty. It's really kind of crazy to see her ranting on social media about how the court was unfair and how Zane somehow manipulated everything to take Violet from her since the ruling. She has been losing it ever since, and rather than standing back and considering her options, she has leaned into this victim mindset. It's as though she lives in her little world, where she is the main character, and it's absurd that she has even attempted to get family members to. It feels good to have made that decision as a family, but one particularly awkward moment was when Betty showed up at a family gathering without being invited and demanded to speak with Zane. On her side, she thought that if she could get enough support, it might change anything. Spoiler alert, it hasn't worked at all. Most of us have just decided to ignore her instead. Since then, Betty's behavior has been fairly predictable. She lashes out, seeks sympathy, and then retreats into her mess. Each time she does this, she distances herself from the family, and we can all see the pattern she feeds off. She began screaming about how unfairly she was being treated, but instead of getting caught up in her chaos, Zane calmly asked her to leave. It was a defining moment for him, and the rest of us stood by him, supporting him. Instead, Zane has been working hard to create a loving and supportive environment for Violet, which is exactly what she needs after everything that has gone wrong. Betty's attempts to get a rise out of Zane have completely backfired, and he knows that engaging in antics would only throw everything he is trying to build for their daughter off balance. We are simply not giving her that anymore, has been posting and sending desperate texts about the unfair treatment she has received, but it is clear that the family has chosen to ignore her. It is almost amusing to watch her lose her temper while we focus on creating a safe environment for Violet. Speaking of Violet, She is doing incredibly well in light of everything that has happened. Zane's efforts to ensure that her needs are satisfied and that she feels safe at home are the difference between Betty's chaotic life, and although it is difficult to watch someone you once cared about struggle like this, we all know that she needs to take responsibility for her decisions, and until she is ready to do so, we will not allow her chaos to disrupt our lives. Zane's stability is pretty remarkable, and it is wonderful to see Violet flourishing in this new environment. Betty's downward spiral has forced her to further isolate herself, losing contact with friends and family who are simply over her drama. This is the current situation. Satie is feeling better after all the drama with Betty in the custody battle. She was initially very upset and worried that she was causing problems for the family, but now that Zane has custody of Violet and things have calmed down, Satie is feeling more secure. While Betty continues to lose it, we are all focused on creating a loving and stable environment for her daughter. STI has also taken on the role of big sister to Violet, which has helped her feel more connected to the family. Their bond is growing stronger, and it's wonderful to watch them support one another every day, as she learns that it's okay to be happy even when things are difficult. She is also becoming more involved in family activities and opening up about her feelings. After the custody decision, Betty was struggling and was venting on social media to get sympathy from anyone who would listen. We are committed to making sure she feels loved and happy, and it is evident that she is beginning to accept her new life. Update 5. Hello everyone. It has been 6 months since the last update, and I am back with another one. Hopefully the last one. All right, let's get started. She was struggling with losing custody and the impending divorce from Zane, so she unexpectedly contacted us and asked for a meeting. At first, we were all apprehensive because of everything that had happened, but after discussing it as a family, we decided to give her a chance because we felt it was crucial to hear her side of the story. Zane agreed to meet her but made it clear he would not be drawn back into. We met at a cafe because of her chaos, and as soon as we sat down, Betty jumped right in. She talked about how she couldn't bear the idea of losing her daughter, how she was determined to change and become a better mother, and how she realized how her actions had affected Violet. During the conversation, Betty became emotional and started crying, expressing how everything had pushed her to her limits. She stated repeatedly that she did not want to lose Violet or Zane. Zane was honest with her, telling her that he could no longer trust her and that Violet's welfare was his top priority. She attempted to persuade him that they could work things out, but it was obvious that he had already made up his mind that the only way to protect herself and Violet was to proceed with the divorce. At that point, she realized that she had not only lost custody of Violet, but also, though it was a difficult realization to accept, I hoped it might motivate her toward genuine change. I wanted to believe she could stand up for Violet, but there was a lingering skepticism among us. Betty also seemed to become quieter after our meeting, as if the reality of her situation was finally sinking in and the weight of her choices pressed heavily on her. Though cautious, Zane decided to allow her some space to prove her sincerity. He wasn't ready to let her back into their lives too quickly, but he acknowledged that Violet deserved to have her mother. In the weeks that followed, we started to notice some changes, whether this new mindset was temporary or if she was truly committed to making a difference. Betty began reaching out more, asking questions about Violet and expressing a desire to be more involved. We all remained cautious, but we also harbored a glimmer of hope that Betty might be attempting to change her life. Violet, on the other hand, appeared a little perplexed. She would periodically inquire about her mother and how she was doing. Zane thoughtfully responded, making sure to validate Violet's feelings without setting unrealistic expectations. One day, Zane sat down with Violet for an open discussion. As the weeks passed, we began to notice some positive changes in Betty. She started going to therapy and tried to get her life back on track. She even reached out to some family members in an attempt to mend the damage. He explained that although Violet missed her mom despite everything that had happened, Betty was working on making changes, but it might take some time before those changes became apparent. Zane was all about providing Violet with a stable home. He was stepping up as a father by spending quality time with her and making sure she felt loved and secure. They started a new routine full of family dinners, game nights, and weekend adventures, and it was very sweet to see Violet begin to relax and appreciate the good things in life. The relationship she had distanced herself from was something that impressed me, but I still felt a little suspicious. Betty's path was not without difficulties. At one point, she sent Zay a rather erratic text expressing her frustrations about their visitation plans. It felt like a step backward, and Zane had to remind her that he was doing his best to balance her needs with Violet's. In life again, the difference between her current situation and the chaos of the past was huge, and it gave us all a sense of hope. He took a moment to step back and remind himself not to get caught up in Betty's drama and to keep his focus on what was best for their daughter. Despite the ups and downs, Zay has remained strong in his commitment, keeping Violet's well-being as his top priority. We could understand the stress returning to Zay's mind because he was working so hard to improve Violet's situation, and it seemed like Betty's actions were endangering that stability. V-Pilot seems to be adjusting fairly well. Sure, she still worries about her mom sometimes, but she's beginning to realize that it is okay to have fun even when things are tough. It is nice to see her laughing and playing again. I admire his dedication and how he has taken control of their lives after so much drama. It has not been easy for him, but he has been forceful. Betty's journey is a bit of a roller coaster, but on some days, she shows real potential. For example, when she reaches out to check on Violet, it seems like she is trying to focus on her daughter rather than her problems, which is undoubtedly a positive sign. However, as we all know, she still has a long way to go before she can truly be a reliable figure in Violet's life. I can see that Betty is trying, and it is difficult not to feel a little hopeful about her potential transformation. She seemed sincere about wanting to be more involved with Violet, which was a significant change from the past when she frequently put her needs first. Zane is still being cautious, but has agreed to allow her some visitation time depending on how committed she is to making real changes. We are all making an effort to manage our expectations, and as for her, she is doing fantastically. She is a true angel who has supported Violet during this period, and the whole family adores her.